What if I told you that happiness isn't something that happens to you, but something you can create systematically, even during the darkest moments of your life? Most people believe happiness is a feeling that comes and goes based on circumstances. They think you're either naturally optimistic or you're not. They wait for life to get easier, for problems to disappear, for the perfect conditions to finally feel good. But here's the truth that will change everything. Happiness is a skill, not a feeling. And like any skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. Right now, millions of people are suffering unnecessarily. They're trapped in cycles of anxiety, depression, and hopelessness, believing that their circumstances control their emotional state. They look at happy people and assume they just got lucky, that they don't face real problems, that they live in some fantasy world where everything goes right. But the research reveals something entirely different. The happiest people on earth aren't the ones with perfect lives. They're the ones who've learned to create happiness regardless of what's happening around them. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending everything is fine when it's not. This is about understanding the actual science of well-being and applying proven strategies that work even when life feels impossible. By the time you finish this audiobook, you'll have a complete system for generating happiness on demand, a mental toolkit that works in any situation, and the knowledge that your emotional state is always within your control. The difference between those who thrive and those who merely survive isn't luck, genetics, or circumstances. It's knowledge. It's understanding how your mind works and how to direct it toward well-being rather than suffering. And today, you're going to learn exactly how to do that. Chapter 1. The happiness delusion that's keeping you miserable. Let me start with a question that will expose the biggest lie you've been told about happiness. When was the last time you thought, I'll be happy when? When I get that promotion, when I find the right person, when I lose weight, when I have more money, when this problem goes away. If you're like most people, you probably think some version of this thought every single day. And that thought is exactly what's keeping you miserable. This is called the hedonic treadmill, and it's one of the most destructive psychological patterns that humans fall into. The hedonic treadmill is the tendency to quickly return to a baseline level of happiness, despite positive or negative events. You get the promotion you wanted, feel good for a few days or weeks, then return to your previous level of satisfaction. You buy something you've been wanting, experience a temporary boost, then find yourself wanting something else. The happiness you thought would last forever fades, and you're back where you started, looking for the next thing that will finally make you happy. But here's what's really happening in your brain during this process. When you get something you want, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. But dopamine isn't actually about happiness. It's about anticipation and wanting. Your brain is designed to adapt to positive experiences quickly, a process called hedonic adaptation. What felt amazing yesterday becomes normal today. This isn't a bug in your system. It's a feature. Your ancestors, who were never satisfied, who always wanted more, were more likely to survive and reproduce than those who were content with what they had. The problem is that this ancient survival mechanism is making you miserable in the modern world. You're constantly chasing the next thing, believing that happiness is always just one achievement, one purchase, one relationship away. But the research shows something devastating. Lottery winners, people who should be living their happiest lives, return to their baseline happiness levels within just a few years. Meanwhile, people who experience terrible tragedies, including those who become paralyzed, also return to baseline happiness levels much faster than you'd expect. This reveals the fundamental truth about happiness that most people never understand. External circumstances have far less impact on your well-being than you think. A Harvard study that followed people for over 80 years found that external factors like income, career success, and material possessions account for only about 10% of your happiness levels. Your genetic set point accounts for about 50%. And here's the crucial part. The remaining 40% is determined by your thoughts, behaviors, and daily practices. That 40% is completely within your control, and it's more than enough to transform your entire experience of life. But most people never tap into this 40% because they're too busy chasing the 10%. They're focused on changing their circumstances instead of changing their internal state. They're trying to fix their life instead of fixing their mind. This is why you can meet people who have everything: wealth, success, recognition, and they're absolutely miserable. And you can meet people who have very little but radiate genuine happiness and contentment. The happiness delusion goes even deeper. Most people think happiness means feeling good all the time, never experiencing negative emotions, always being in a positive state. This impossible standard actually makes them more miserable because they judge themselves for having normal human emotions. They think something is wrong with them when they feel sad, anxious, or frustrated. But happiness isn't the absence of negative emotions. It's the ability to experience the full range of human emotions without being controlled by them. Real happiness, sustainable happiness, comes from understanding that you are not your emotions. You are the observer of your emotions. When you realize that feelings are temporary visitors, not permanent residents, you stop trying to control them and start focusing on what you can actually control: your responses, your thoughts, and your actions. This shift in perspective is the foundation of everything else we're going to cover. The most successful approach to happiness isn't trying to eliminate problems or negative emotions. It's building psychological resilience so that you can maintain your well-being regardless of what's happening. It's developing what psychologists call emotional regulation, the ability to experience difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them. It's learning to find meaning and purpose even in suffering. It's understanding that happiness is an inside job, not an outside job. Chapter 2. The Science of Emotional Alchemy. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. Let me repeat that because it's crucial. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. Your brain is designed to keep you alive. And those two objectives are often in direct conflict. Understanding this fundamental truth is the first step toward taking control of your emotional state and creating lasting happiness regardless of your circumstances. Your ancient brain, specifically the amygdala and the limbic system, operates on a simple principle: scan for threats, react to dangers, and keep you safe. This was incredibly useful when our ancestors faced immediate physical threats like predators or environmental hazards. If you heard a rustling in the bushes, it was better to assume it was a tiger and run, even if it was just the wind. The cost of being wrong about a real threat was death. The cost of being wrong about a false threat was just wasted energy. But in the modern world, this same system is constantly firing off false alarms. Your brain treats a critical email from your boss the same way it would treat a charging lion. It responds to social rejection with the same intensity it would respond to physical pain. It interprets uncertainty about the future as an immediate threat to your survival. The result is that you're living in a chronic state of stress and anxiety, even when you're objectively safe. This is where the science of emotional alchemy becomes life-changing. Emotional alchemy is the practice of transforming negative emotional states into positive ones through conscious mental techniques. It's based on the understanding that your emotions are not facts about your reality. They're interpretations created by your brain, based on your thoughts, beliefs, and past experiences. Here's the revolutionary insight from neuroscience. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's vividly imagined. This is why you can watch a scary movie and feel genuine fear even though you know intellectually that you're safe. It's why you can worry about something that hasn't happened and feel the same stress as if it were actually happening. But this same principle can be used to your advantage. When you understand how emotions are created, you can learn to influence them. Emotions begin with a thought, often so automatic that you don't even notice it. This thought triggers a chemical response in your brain, releasing neurotransmitters and hormones that create the physical sensation you call an emotion. The emotion then influences more thoughts, creating a feedback loop that can either spiral upward into positive states or downward into negative states. The key to emotional alchemy is interrupting this process and consciously directing it toward positive states. This isn't about pretending to feel good when you don't. It's about understanding that you have more control over your emotional state than you've been led to believe. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. Imagine you're stuck in traffic and you're going to be late for an important meeting. Your automatic thought might be, "This is terrible. I'm going to be late. Everyone will think I'm unreliable. This could hurt my career." This thought triggers stress hormones, creating feelings of anxiety and frustration. These emotions then generate more negative thoughts. "I should have left earlier. I always mess things up. Nothing ever goes right for me." Now you're in a full negative spiral, but you could also choose a different thought. "This traffic is out of my control. I'll text to let them know I'm running late. They'll understand, and I can use this time to prepare mentally for the meeting." This thought creates a completely different chemical response, releasing calming neurotransmitters and reducing stress hormones. The same external situation, but a completely different internal experience. This is emotional alchemy in action. You're taking the raw material of the situation and transforming it through the power of conscious interpretation. The more you practice this, the more automatic it becomes. Over time, you literally rewire your brain to default to more positive interpretations and emotional responses. But emotional alchemy goes deeper than just positive thinking. It's about understanding the purpose of every emotion and learning to work with them rather than against them. Anger, for example, is often a signal that your boundaries have been violated or that something important to you is being threatened. Instead of suppressing anger or being overwhelmed by it, you can use it as information and energy to take appropriate action. Fear is often a signal that you're about to do something important, something that matters to you. Instead of letting fear stop you, you can reframe it as excitement and use it to fuel your performance. Sadness is often a signal that you've lost something meaningful, and it's your brain's way of processing that loss. Instead of trying to avoid sadness, you can honor it as part of the healing process while taking care of yourself during difficult times. The practice of emotional alchemy also involves understanding that emotions are temporary. No emotion, positive or negative, lasts forever. When you're in the middle of a difficult emotional state, it feels like it will never end. But emotions are like weather patterns. They arise, peak, and then naturally subside if you don't feed them with resistant thoughts. Chapter 3. Building your daily happiness architecture. Most people approach happiness like they approach the weather. They just hope for a good day and react to whatever shows up. But what if I told you that you could engineer your happiness the same way architects engineer buildings? What if you could create a daily structure that automatically generates positive emotions, resilience, and well-being? Regardless of what challenges come your way, this is exactly what the happiest people in the world do. Often without even realizing it, they've built what I call happiness architecture, a systematic approach to designing their days, their thoughts, and their behaviors in ways that consistently produce positive emotional states. And the beautiful thing is, once you understand the principles, you can build this architecture into your own life, starting today. The foundation of happiness architecture is understanding that your emotional state isn't random. It's the result of specific inputs. What you think about, what you focus on, how you move your body, what you consume mentally and physically, how you interact with others, and how you structure your time. When you take conscious control of these inputs, you take conscious control of your outputs, your emotions, your energy, and your overall well-being. Let's start with the most powerful component of happiness architecture, your morning routine. How you start your day sets the emotional tone for everything that follows. Most people begin their day by immediately checking their phone, flooding their brain with other people's problems, news, and demands. They're essentially letting the outside world hijack their emotional state before they've even gotten out of bed. Instead, the happiest people protect the first hour of their day like it's the most valuable hour of their life. Because at Island, they use this time to prime their brain for positivity, focus, and resilience. This doesn't require hours of complicated rituals. It can be as simple as spending 5 minutes in gratitude, 5 minutes setting intentions for the day, and 5 minutes doing something that brings you joy. The gratitude practice alone is incredibly powerful. Neuroscience research shows that regularly practicing gratitude literally rewires your brain to notice more positive aspects of your life. When you consistently look for things to be grateful for, your brain gets better at spotting them automatically. It's like training your mental spotlight to illuminate what's working in your life instead of what's broken. But gratitude practice has to be done correctly to be effective. Most people just go through the motions, thinking of obvious things like health or family, without really feeling the emotion. The key is to get specific and really feel the appreciation. Instead of, "I'm grateful for my health," try, "I'm grateful that my body carried me through yesterday's challenges, that my heart kept beating while I slept, that my eyes can see the sunlight streaming through my window right now." The next component of happiness architecture is what psychologists call environmental design. Your physical environment has a massive impact on your emotional state, but most people never think about this consciously. Cluttered, chaotic spaces create cluttered, chaotic mental states. Dark, cramped environments drain your energy. Ugly surroundings make you feel ugly inside. Happy people design their environment to support their well-being. They fill their space with things that bring them joy, natural light, plants, meaningful objects, inspiring books. They minimize clutter and distractions. They create sacred spaces for reflection, creativity, and relaxation. You don't need money to do this. You need intention. Even small changes like opening curtains to let in more light, adding a plant to your workspace, or organizing your living area can dramatically improve your daily emotional experience. Physical movement is another crucial component of happiness architecture. Your body and mind are not separate systems. They're one integrated system. When you move your body in certain ways, you automatically change your mental and emotional state. This is why exercise is one of the most effective treatments for depression and anxiety. Often more effective than medication. But you don't need to become a fitness fanatic to harness this power. Simple movements throughout the day can shift your state instantly. When you feel stressed, anxious, or down, changing your physiology can change your psychology. Stand up straight. Take deep breaths. Move your body with energy and purpose. Your brain will interpret these physical signals as indicators that you're confident and capable, and it will adjust your emotional state accordingly. The mental diet component of happiness architecture might be the most important of all. Just as junk food makes your body feel sluggish and unhealthy, junk thoughts make your mind feel negative and pessimistic. Most people consume mental junk all day long. Negative news, gossip, complaints, worry, self-criticism, and doom scrolling on social media. Happy people are extremely selective about what they allow into their mental space. They limit news consumption to specific times and sources. They avoid people who constantly complain or spread negativity. They choose books, podcasts, and content that educate, inspire, or entertain in positive ways. They practice what psychologists call cognitive hygiene, regularly cleaning out negative thought patterns and replacing them with more empowering ones. The final component of happiness architecture is social connection design. Humans are social creatures, and the quality of your relationships has an enormous impact on your happiness levels. The Harvard study of adult development, which has followed people for over 80 years, found that good relationships are the strongest predictor of happiness and life satisfaction. But it's not just about having relationships. It's about having the right kind of relationships. Toxic relationships drain your energy and poison your well-being. Superficial relationships leave you feeling lonely, even when you're surrounded by people. Deep, supportive relationships nourish your soul and provide resilience during difficult times. Happy people are intentional about their social connections. They invest time and energy in relationships that are mutual, supportive, and growth-oriented. They set boundaries with people who consistently bring negativity into their lives. They seek out communities and friendships based on shared values and interests. They practice vulnerability and authenticity, which deepens connections and creates genuine intimacy. Chapter 4. The Gratitude Revolution. If I could give you only one tool for creating instant happiness that works in any situation, it would be gratitude. But not the surface level, going through the motions gratitude that most people practice. I'm talking about deep, transformative gratitude that literally rewires your brain and changes your entire relationship with life. This is gratitude as a revolutionary act, a rebellion against the default negativity of the human mind. Here's what most people don't understand about gratitude. It's not just a nice feeling or a polite social behavior. Gratitude is one of the most powerful neurological interventions available to human beings. When you practice genuine gratitude, you're literally changing the structure and function of your brain in ways that make you happier, healthier, and more resilient. Dr. Robert Emmons, the world's leading researcher on gratitude, has conducted hundreds of studies showing that people who regularly practice gratitude experience significantly higher levels of positive emotions, better sleep, stronger immune systems, lower blood pressure, and more satisfying relationships. They're more optimistic, less depressed, and better able to cope with stress and trauma. They even live longer than people who don't practice gratitude. But here's the most amazing part. These benefits start showing up in just a few weeks of consistent practice. Your brain begins rewiring itself almost immediately. Gratitude activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for higher-order thinking and emotional regulation. It increases the production of dopamine and serotonin, your brain's natural happiness chemicals. It strengthens the neural pathways associated with positive thinking and weakens the pathways associated with negative thinking. This happens because of a principle in neuroscience called Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you focus on something you're grateful for, you're strengthening the neural networks that look for positive aspects of your experience. Over time, gratitude becomes your brain's default setting. You start noticing good things automatically, without having to think about it consciously. But most people practice gratitude wrong, and that's why they don't get these life-changing results. They think of obvious things like health, family, or having a roof over their head, but they don't actually feel grateful. They just think the words. Or they practice gratitude only when things are going well, missing the opportunity to use it when they need it most. Real gratitude practice is about finding genuine appreciation in any moment, especially difficult moments. It's about training your mind to see gifts where others see problems, opportunities where others see obstacles, growth where others see setbacks. This isn't about pretending that bad things are good. It's about finding the authentic, positive aspects that are always present if you know how to look. Let me give you a specific example. Imagine you lose your job unexpectedly. The natural response is panic, stress, and focusing on all the problems this creates. But a gratitude revolutionary would approach it differently. They might feel grateful for the opportunity to reassess their career direction, for the severance package that gives them time to explore new options, for discovering who their real friends are during difficult times, for the skills and experience they've gained that can't be taken away, for the chance to spend more time with family, or for the wake-up call to pursue something they're more passionate about. This isn't denial or toxic positivity. All of these things can be genuinely true simultaneously with the difficulty and challenge of the situation. Gratitude doesn't eliminate problems. It gives you the emotional resources to handle them more effectively. The key to revolutionary gratitude is specificity and sensation. Instead of general thoughts like, "I'm grateful for my family," get specific. "I'm grateful for the way my daughter laughed at my joke this morning, for how my partner brought me coffee without being asked, for the text my brother sent checking on me." Really feel the warmth and appreciation in your body as you think these thoughts. Another powerful gratitude technique is contrast thinking. This involves imagining how much worse your situation could be, or remembering times when you didn't have something you now take for granted. When you're stuck in traffic, instead of getting frustrated, you could feel grateful that you have a car, that you have somewhere important to go, that you live in a time and place where such conveniences exist. Gratitude for challenges is perhaps the most advanced practice, but it's also the most transformative. Every difficulty you face is also an opportunity to develop strength, wisdom, and resilience. Every person who challenges you is also teaching you something about yourself or others. Every setback is also a setup for a comeback. When you can find genuine gratitude for your problems, you become unstoppable. The practice of gratitude also extends to appreciating yourself. Most people are their own worst critics, constantly focusing on their flaws, mistakes, and shortcomings. But you can redirect this attention toward appreciation for your efforts, your growth, your resilience, and your unique qualities. You can feel grateful for your body's incredible ability to heal and function, for your mind's capacity to learn and create, for your heart's ability to love and care. One of the most powerful gratitude practices is writing thank you letters to people who have impacted your life positively. This doesn't have to be sent, though it can be incredibly meaningful if you choose to share it. The act of deeply reflecting on how someone has contributed to your life and articulating that appreciation creates profound positive emotions for both you and them if shared. Gratitude can also be practiced in real time throughout the day. Instead of mindlessly going through routines, you can consciously appreciate simple pleasures: the taste of your morning coffee, the feeling of hot water in the shower, the comfort of your bed, the beauty of nature around you, the kindness of strangers, the convenience of modern technology. The ultimate goal of gratitude practice is to shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. When you regularly focus on what you have rather than what you lack, your brain begins to perceive your life as rich and full rather than lacking and empty. This shift in perception changes everything: your energy, your relationships, your opportunities, and your overall life satisfaction. Chapter 5. Mastering your inner dialogue. Right now, as you're listening to these words, there's another voice in your head. It's commenting on what I'm saying, maybe agreeing or disagreeing, perhaps thinking about your to-do list or something that happened yesterday. This voice, your inner dialogue, is the most powerful force in determining your happiness or misery. And for most people, it's their greatest enemy. The average person has between 0 to 80 thoughts per day. For most people, up to 80% of these thoughts are negative, and 95% are repetitive. That means your brain is essentially a broken record, playing the same negative stories over and over again. These thoughts create your emotions. Your emotions drive your behaviors, and your behaviors create your results. If you want to change your life, you must first change your inner dialogue. But here's what most people don't realize. That voice in your head isn't you. You are the observer of that voice. You are the awareness that notices the thoughts. This distinction is absolutely crucial because once you understand that you are not your thoughts, you can start choosing which thoughts to believe and which ones to ignore. Think about it this way. If you were your thoughts, who would be listening to them? If you were your thoughts, how could you disagree with them or change them? The fact that you can observe your thoughts proves that there's a deeper you, the real you, that exists beyond the mental chatter. This realization is the beginning of mental freedom. When you stop identifying with every thought that pops into your head, you gain the power to consciously direct your thinking. You become the director of your mental movie instead of being a passive victim of whatever thoughts randomly appear. The first step in mastering your inner dialogue is becoming aware of it. Most people are so lost in their thoughts that they don't even realize they're thinking. They're completely unconscious of the stories they're telling themselves all day long. But you can't change what you're not aware of. So developing metacognition, thinking about thinking, is essential. Start paying attention to your thoughts without judging them. Just notice what your mind is doing. Are you criticizing yourself? Worrying about the future? Replaying past mistakes? Complaining about your circumstances? Most people are shocked when they first become aware of how negative their inner dialogue really is. Once you're aware of your thoughts, the next step is questioning them. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. Your thoughts are often based on outdated beliefs, past experiences, fear, or conditioning from other people. They're not objective facts about reality. They're subjective interpretations that you can choose to accept or reject. Byron Katie, a teacher who developed a powerful method for questioning thoughts, suggests asking 4 questions about any thought that's causing you suffering. Is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? How do you react when you believe that thought? Who would you be without that thought? Let's apply this to a common negative thought. I'm not good enough. Is it true? How do you define good enough? Compared to what standard? Can you absolutely know that it's true? Probably not, because good enough is a subjective judgment, not an objective fact. How do you react when you believe that thought? You probably feel insecure, anxious, and unmotivated. You might procrastinate or avoid challenges. Who would you be without that thought? You'd probably feel more confident, take more risks, and enjoy life more. This process reveals that many of your most painful thoughts are not actually true, and believing them is optional. You can choose to let them go and replace them with more empowering thoughts. But changing your inner dialogue isn't just about eliminating negative thoughts. It's about consciously creating positive ones. This is where affirmations, when done correctly, become incredibly powerful. Most people think affirmations are silly because they try to convince themselves of things they don't believe. I am wealthy, when you're broke, feels like lying to yourself. Effective affirmations work with your psychology, not against it. Instead of statements that feel false, use statements that feel possible and empowering. Instead of, I am wealthy, try, I am learning to make better financial decisions every day. Instead of, I am confident, try, I am becoming more confident with every challenge I face. The key is to create thoughts that feel authentic while directing your mind toward what you want to create. Your brain will work to make whatever you consistently think about become reality. This is called the reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information and focuses your attention on what you've determined is important. Another powerful technique for mastering inner dialogue is reframing. This involves taking a negative thought and finding a more empowering way to interpret the same situation. Instead of, this is too hard, try, this is an opportunity to grow stronger. Instead of, I can't handle this, try, I'm learning to handle this. Instead of, why does this always happen to me? Try, what can I learn from this experience? Reframing doesn't change external reality, but it changes your internal experience of that reality. And your internal experience is what determines your emotional state, your energy level, and your ability to respond effectively to challenges. You can also use your inner dialogue to coach yourself the way a supportive friend or mentor would. Instead of being your own worst critic, become your own best cheerleader. Talk to yourself with the same kindness and encouragement you would offer to someone you care about. Ask yourself empowering questions. What's the best thing that could happen here? How can I make this work? What would someone I admire do in this situation? The goal isn't to eliminate all negative thoughts. That's impossible and unnecessary. The goal is to stop believing and dwelling on thoughts that don't serve you, and to consciously create thoughts that empower you and move you toward your goals. Chapter 6. The Relationship Code for Instant Happiness. Here's a truth that will change how you think about happiness forever. You cannot be consistently happy in isolation. Human beings are fundamentally social creatures, and the quality of your relationships is the single strongest predictor of your life satisfaction. The Harvard study of adult development, which has followed people for over 80 years, found that good relationships keep us happier and healthier than anything else. Not money, not fame, not achievement, but relationships. But most people are terrible at relationships because they approach them with a scarcity mindset instead of an abundance mindset. They focus on what they can get from others rather than what they can give. They try to control others instead of controlling themselves. They expect others to make them happy instead of bringing their own happiness to the relationship. This backward approach creates drama, conflict, and disappointment. When you need others to behave in certain ways for you to feel good, you've given away your power. You've made your emotional state dependent on factors outside your control. And ironically, this neediness pushes people away and creates the very rejection and loneliness you're trying to avoid. The relationship code for instant happiness flips this script completely. Instead of trying to get love, you focus on giving love. Instead of trying to be understood, you focus on understanding others. Instead of trying to change people, you accept them as they are while setting healthy boundaries for yourself. This shift in approach transforms every relationship in your life and creates a positive feedback loop that generates continuous happiness. Let's start with the foundation: self-love. You cannot give what you don't have. If you don't have a loving relationship with yourself, you'll constantly seek validation and approval from others. This creates unhealthy dynamics where you either become a people pleaser who loses yourself in relationships, or you become demanding and critical when others don't meet your expectations. Self-love isn't about thinking you're perfect or better than others. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would show a good friend. It's about accepting your flaws while working to improve. It's about setting boundaries that protect your well-being. It's about speaking to yourself with encouragement rather than criticism. When you truly love yourself, you bring a full cup to every relationship. You're not looking for others to complete you because you're already complete. You're not desperate for attention because you give yourself attention. You're not afraid of rejection because your self-worth doesn't depend on others' approval. This abundance mindset makes you incredibly attractive to healthy people and repellent to toxic people. The next component of the relationship code is radical acceptance. Most relationship problems stem from trying to change people. You think your partner would be perfect if they just did this differently. You think your friend would be better if they made different choices. You think your family members would be happier if they listened to your advice. But trying to change others is not only futile, it's relationship poison. Radical acceptance means loving people exactly as they are right now, not as you think they should be or could become. This doesn't mean you have to tolerate behavior that hurts you. That's where boundaries come in. But it means you stop trying to fix, control, or improve other people. You accept that everyone is on their own journey, making their own choices, and learning their own lessons. This acceptance is incredibly liberating for both you and them. When people feel accepted rather than judged, they relax and show up more authentically. When you stop trying to control others, you free up enormous mental and emotional energy to focus on what you can actually control: your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Empathy is another crucial component of relationship happiness. Most people think they're good listeners, but they're actually just waiting for their turn to talk. They're mentally preparing their response instead of truly understanding what the other person is feeling. Real empathy involves putting yourself in someone else's shoes and feeling what they feel, not just thinking about what they're saying. When you truly listen to understand rather than to respond, magical things happen. People feel seen and heard. They open up more. They trust you more. They want to spend more time with you. And ironically, when you focus entirely on understanding them, they become more interested in understanding you. The practice of empathy also involves validating others' emotions, even when you disagree with their perspective. You can say things like, "I can understand why you'd feel that way," or "That sounds really frustrating," without having to agree with their interpretation of events. Validation is one of the deepest human needs, and when you provide it consistently, you become a source of emotional safety for others. Boundaries are essential for relationship happiness, but most people misunderstand what boundaries are. Boundaries are not walls you build to keep people out. They're guidelines you set for how you allow yourself to be treated. You can't control others' behavior, but you can control your response to their behavior. Healthy boundaries involve communicating your needs clearly and following through with consequences when those needs aren't respected. This might mean ending conversations when someone becomes verbally abusive, limiting time with people who consistently drain your energy, or saying no to requests that compromise your well-being. Setting boundaries feels uncomfortable at first because most people are conditioned to prioritize others' comfort over their own well-being. But boundaries actually improve relationships by creating clarity and mutual respect. They prevent resentment from building up and ensure that your relationships are based on choice rather than obligation. Gratitude and appreciation are relationship superpowers that most people underutilize. Everyone wants to feel valued and appreciated, but most people take their loved ones for granted. They focus on what's wrong rather than what's right. They complain about annoying habits instead of celebrating positive qualities. When you consistently express genuine appreciation for the people in your life, you create a positive atmosphere that makes everyone happier. You can appreciate someone's efforts even when the results aren't perfect. You can acknowledge their good intentions even when their execution falls short. You can express gratitude for their presence in your life even during difficult times. The final component of the relationship code is contribution. The happiest people are those who focus on what they can give rather than what they can get. They look for ways to add value to others' lives. They offer support during difficult times. They celebrate others' successes genuinely. They serve something bigger than themselves. When you approach relationships from a place of service rather than selfishness, you create deep connections that nourish your soul. You become the kind of person that others are grateful to have in their lives. And paradoxically, when you stop trying to get love and start giving love freely, you receive more love than you ever imagined possible. Chapter 7. The Body, Mind, Happiness Connection. Your body and your mind are not separate systems. They are one integrated system, and what affects one immediately affects the other. This means that your physical state has a direct and powerful influence on your emotional state. Most people try to think their way to happiness while completely ignoring the body. But the fastest way to change how you feel is often to change how you move. This isn't just motivational speaking. This is hard science. When you exercise, your body releases endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, the exact same chemicals that antidepressant medications are designed to increase. In fact, numerous studies have shown that regular exercise is as effective as medication for treating mild to moderate depression, and it has zero negative side effects. But the body-mind connection goes far deeper than just exercise. Your posture affects your confidence levels. Your breathing patterns affect your anxiety levels. Your facial expressions affect your mood. Even the way you walk can influence how optimistic or pessimistic you feel. When you understand these connections, you gain access to instant tools for shifting your emotional state. Let's start with posture, one of the most underestimated factors in emotional well-being. Social psychologist Amy Cuddy's research on power posing revealed that standing in confident positions for just 2 minutes increases testosterone by 20% and decreases cortisol by 25%. Testosterone is associated with confidence and assertiveness, while cortisol is the stress hormone that makes you feel anxious and overwhelmed. This means that simply changing your posture can literally change your brain chemistry. When you stand tall with your shoulders back, chest open, and head held high, your brain interprets these physical signals as indicators that you're confident and capable. It then adjusts your emotional state to match your physical state. Most people do the opposite. They slouch when they feel insecure, which makes them feel even more insecure. They hunch their shoulders when stressed, which increases their stress. They look down when sad, which deepens their sadness. But you can reverse this cycle by consciously adopting confident postures, even when you don't feel confident. Breathing is another incredibly powerful tool for emotional regulation. Your breath is the only part of your autonomic nervous system that you can consciously control, and it's directly connected to your emotional state. When you're anxious or stressed, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. When you're calm and relaxed, your breathing becomes deep and slow. But here's the key insight. You can use breathing to create the emotional state you want, rather than just reflecting the state you're in. When you deliberately slow down and deepen your breathing, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the rest and digest response. This immediately reduces stress hormones and increases feelings of calm and well-being. The most effective breathing technique for instant emotional regulation is called coherent breathing or resonance breathing. This involves breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, breathing out for 4 counts, and holding for 4 counts. This pattern synchronizes your heart rate variability and creates a state of physiological coherence that optimizes both mental and emotional function. Movement is medicine for the mind. When you move your body with energy and purpose, you're telling your brain that you're alive, capable, and ready for action. This is why people who exercise regularly are significantly less likely to experience depression and anxiety. It's also why even short bursts of movement can instantly shift your mood. You don't need to become a fitness fanatic to harness this power. Simple movements throughout the day can be incredibly effective. When you feel stuck or negative, try doing jumping jacks, push-ups, or just dancing to your favorite song for 2 minutes. The physical activity will change your brain chemistry and give you a fresh perspective on whatever you are dealing with. The type of movement matters too. Rhythmic, repetitive movements like walking, running, or dancing are particularly effective for processing emotions and reducing stress. These activities engage both hemispheres of your brain and activate the default mode network, which is associated with creative problem-solving and emotional integration. Your facial expressions also have a direct impact on your emotional state through what's called the facial feedback hypothesis. When you smile, even if it's forced, your brain receives signals from your facial muscles and interprets them as indicators that you're happy. This triggers the release of mood-boosting chemicals and actually makes you feel better. This works because your brain uses your facial expressions as information about how you should be feeling. If you're smiling, you must be happy. If you're frowning, you must be upset. You can use this to your advantage by consciously adopting positive facial expressions, especially during challenging times. Sleep is perhaps the most crucial factor in the body-mind happiness connection. Sleep deprivation has the same effect on your emotional regulation as alcohol intoxication. When you're sleep deprived, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes hyperactive, while your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking, becomes impaired. This means that everything feels harder when you're tired. Small problems seem like big problems. Minor irritations feel like major crises. You're more likely to make poor decisions, say things you regret, and react emotionally rather than responding thoughtfully. On the other hand, when you're well rested, you're naturally more optimistic, resilient, and emotionally stable. Most people sacrifice sleep for productivity, but this is incredibly counterproductive. Quality sleep isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for optimal mental and emotional function. When you prioritize sleep, you're investing in your happiness, your relationships, and your overall life satisfaction. Nutrition also plays a crucial role in your emotional state. Your brain consumes about 20% of your daily calories, and what you eat directly affects how you think and feel. Foods high in refined sugar and processed ingredients create energy spikes and crashes that destabilize your mood. Meanwhile, foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, complex carbohydrates, and antioxidants support stable mood and cognitive function. The gut-brain connection is particularly important. Your gut produces about 90% of your body's serotonin, the neurotransmitter that regulates mood, sleep, and appetite. When your gut health is compromised, your mental health suffers. This is why people often experience anxiety and depression alongside digestive issues. Temperature and environment also affect your emotional state. Cold exposure, like cold showers or ice baths, can increase norepinephrine levels and improve mood resilience. Exposure to natural light, especially in the morning, helps regulate your circadian rhythm and supports healthy sleep patterns. Being in nature, even for short periods, reduces cortisol levels and increases feelings of well-being. The key to harnessing the body-mind connection is to become conscious of how your physical state affects your emotional state, and to use this knowledge strategically. When you feel down, ask yourself, how is my posture? How am I breathing? When did I last move my body? Am I well rested? Am I hydrated? Often, addressing the physical aspects will automatically improve the emotional aspects. Chapter 8. Finding Meaning in the Chaos. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, made one of the most profound observations about human happiness. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Frankl discovered that even in the most horrific conditions imaginable, people could find meaning and maintain their humanity. This insight reveals a fundamental truth about happiness. It's not dependent on your circumstances. It's dependent on the meaning you assign to your circumstances. Most people wait for life to give them meaning. They think meaning will come from external sources: the right job, the right relationship, the right achievements, the right circumstances. But meaning isn't something you find. It's something you create. And the ability to create meaning from any situation, especially difficult situations, is one of the most powerful tools for maintaining happiness when life gets hard. The search for meaning is fundamental to human psychology. When your life feels meaningful, you can endure almost any suffering. When your life feels meaningless, even minor inconveniences become unbearable. This is why some people thrive despite facing enormous challenges, while others fall apart over relatively minor setbacks. The difference isn't in their circumstances. It's in their ability to find meaning in their experiences. Meaning comes from three primary sources: purpose, significance, and growth. Purpose is about having something important to work toward, a reason for getting up in the morning, a sense that your life is moving in a meaningful direction. Significance is about feeling that your life matters, that you make a difference, that your existence has value. Growth is about continuously becoming a better version of yourself, learning from experiences, and developing your potential. When all three elements are present, you experience what psychologists call eudaimonic well-being, a deep sense of fulfillment that goes beyond temporary pleasure or happiness. This type of well-being is more stable and enduring than hedonic well-being, which depends on external circumstances and tends to fade quickly. Purpose doesn't have to be grandiose or world-changing. It doesn't have to be your career or some major life mission. Purpose can be found in being a loving parent, creating art, helping your community, learning new skills, or simply being a positive presence in others' lives. The key is that it feels meaningful to you and connects you to something larger than yourself. Many people struggle to find their purpose because they think it should be obvious or that they should feel passionate about it immediately. But purpose is often discovered through action, not contemplation. You find your purpose by trying things, paying attention to what energizes you, and noticing where your natural talents and interests intersect with the world's needs. The Japanese concept of ikigai illustrates this beautifully. Ikigai is the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. You don't need all four elements to find meaning, but the more elements you can align, the stronger your sense of purpose becomes. Significance is about feeling that your life has impact and that you matter. This doesn't require fame or recognition from thousands of people. Significance can come from knowing that you've helped one person through a difficult time, that you've raised children who contribute positively to the world, that you've created something beautiful, or that you've made your corner of the world a little bit better. One of the most reliable ways to create significance is through service to others. When you contribute to something beyond yourself, you automatically create meaning. This might involve volunteering, mentoring, caring for family members, or simply being kind and helpful in your daily interactions. The act of service creates a sense of connection and purpose that generates deep satisfaction. Growth and learning are also fundamental sources of meaning. Humans are naturally designed to grow, learn, and evolve throughout their lives. When you're actively developing your skills, expanding your knowledge, or working to become a better person, you feel alive and engaged. Stagnation, on the other hand, leads to feelings of emptiness and depression. This is why challenges, while difficult, can actually be sources of meaning and happiness. Every obstacle you overcome makes you stronger. Every skill you develop expands your capabilities. Every setback teaches you something valuable. When you reframe difficulties as opportunities for growth, you transform suffering into significance. The concept of post-traumatic growth illustrates this principle. Research shows that many people who experience significant trauma actually end up stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled than they were before the traumatic event. They develop deeper relationships, stronger spiritual beliefs, greater appreciation for life, and increased confidence in their ability to handle challenges. This doesn't mean that trauma is good or that suffering is necessary for growth. But it does mean that when difficult things happen, you have the power to extract meaning and value from the experience. You can use adversity as raw material for building resilience, wisdom, and compassion. Creating meaning also involves developing a coherent narrative about your life. Humans are storytelling creatures, and the story you tell yourself about your life profoundly affects your emotional state. Are you the victim of circumstances? Or are you the hero of your own journey? Are your setbacks evidence that life is unfair? Or are they plot twists that make your story more interesting? The most resilient people are those who can construct empowering narratives about their experiences. They see their past challenges as preparation for future opportunities. They view their struggles as evidence of their strength rather than their weakness. They interpret their journey as meaningful rather than random. You can consciously craft your life narrative by looking for patterns, lessons, and growth in your experiences. What themes run through your life? What lessons have you learned? How have your challenges shaped you in positive ways? What unique perspective or wisdom do you have to offer because of what you've been through? Legacy thinking is another powerful way to create meaning. When you consider how you want to be remembered and what impact you want to have on the world, your daily actions take on greater significance. You're not just living for today. You're contributing to something that will outlast you. This doesn't require having children or creating monuments. Your legacy might be the kindness you show to others, the problems you solve, the beauty you create, or the positive changes you make in your community. When you live with legacy consciousness, every interaction becomes an opportunity to create meaning. The practice of meaning-making is especially important during difficult times. When you're facing loss, illness, failure, or other challenges, asking, "What can I learn from this?" or "How can this make me stronger?" helps you find purpose in pain. It doesn't eliminate the difficulty, but it transforms suffering into something meaningful rather than meaningless. Chapter 9. Emotional Aikido. Transforming negative emotions into power. Most people fight their negative emotions like they're enemies to be defeated. They try to suppress anger, avoid sadness, eliminate fear, and escape anxiety. But this approach is not only ineffective, it's counterproductive. What you resist persists, and what you try to push away often grows stronger. The secret to emotional mastery isn't eliminating negative emotions. It's learning to transform them into sources of power and wisdom. This transformation process is what I call emotional Aikido, borrowing from the martial art that teaches you to redirect an opponent's energy rather than meeting force with force. In emotional Aikido, you don't fight your feelings. You flow with them. You don't suppress them. You harness them. You don't judge them as good or bad. You use them as information and energy. Every emotion, even the ones that feel terrible, serves a purpose. Emotions are your internal guidance system, providing valuable information about your environment, your relationships, and your needs. When you learn to decode and redirect emotional energy, you gain access to incredible power and wisdom that most people never discover. Let's start with anger, one of the most misunderstood emotions. Most people see anger as entirely negative, something to be controlled or eliminated. But anger is actually a powerful signal that something important to you is being threatened or violated. It's your internal alarm system alerting you to injustice, boundary violations, or unmet needs. The problem isn't anger itself. It's what most people do with anger. They either explode outward, damaging relationships and creating more problems, or they implode inward, turning anger into self-criticism and depression. But there's a third option: transforming anger into constructive action. When you feel angry, instead of asking, "How can I get rid of this feeling?" ask, "What is this anger trying to tell me?" Often, anger is pointing you towards something that needs to change. Maybe someone is taking advantage of you and you need to set boundaries. Maybe you're tolerating something you shouldn't tolerate. Maybe you need to advocate for yourself or others. Anger contains enormous energy that can fuel positive change when channeled correctly. Some of the greatest social movements in history were powered by righteous anger about injustice. Some of the most important personal transformations begin with anger about unacceptable situations. The key is to feel the anger fully without acting on it immediately. Let the emotion move through your body. Notice where you feel it physically. Breathe deeply and allow the intensity to peak and then naturally subside. Once you're no longer in the grip of the emotion, you can use its message and energy to take appropriate action. Fear is another emotion that most people misinterpret. Fear feels terrible, so people assume it's entirely negative. But fear is actually trying to protect you. It's your brain's way of alerting you to potential danger so you can respond appropriately. The problem is that in the modern world, your fear system often overreacts to situations that aren't actually dangerous. But fear also points you toward growth opportunities. Often, the things you're most afraid of are the things that would most transform your life if you did them. Fear of rejection keeps you from pursuing meaningful relationships. Fear of failure keeps you from taking career risks. Fear of judgment keeps you from expressing your authentic self. When you reframe fear as excitement, everything changes. Fear and excitement create almost identical physical sensations: increased heart rate, heightened alertness, energy surging through your body. The only difference is your interpretation. When you tell yourself, "I'm excited," instead of "I'm scared," you transform fear energy into performance energy. This technique, called anxiety reappraisal, has been proven effective in numerous studies. People who reframe their anxiety as excitement perform better on tests, give better presentations, and take more productive risks. You're not trying to eliminate the sensation. You're changing what it means. Sadness is perhaps the most avoided emotion in our culture. People will do almost anything to avoid feeling sad. They'll stay busy, medicate with substances, distract themselves with entertainment, or rush into new relationships. But sadness serves a crucial function in emotional health. Sadness is your psyche's way of processing loss and integrating difficult experiences. When you avoid sadness, you prevent yourself from fully healing and moving forward. Unprocessed grief and sadness get stored in your body and mind, creating chronic, emotional, and physical problems. The transformative power of sadness lies in its ability to deepen your capacity for compassion, both for yourself and others. People who have fully experienced and processed their own sadness become more empathetic, understanding, and emotionally intelligent. They develop what researchers call emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish between subtle emotional states and respond appropriately. Sadness also connects you to what matters most in your life. You don't feel sad about losing things you don't care about. Sadness reveals your values and priorities. It shows you what's truly important. When you honor your sadness instead of avoiding it, you gain clarity about what deserves your time and energy. Anxiety, while uncomfortable, often contains important information about areas of your life that need attention. Sometimes, anxiety is your intuition alerting you to real problems that need to be addressed. Sometimes, it's your mind's way of preparing you for important challenges. Sometimes, it's a signal that you're not living in alignment with your values. Instead of trying to eliminate anxiety, you can use it as a catalyst for positive action. Anxious energy can fuel preparation, planning, and problem-solving. When you channel anxiety into productive activities, you often discover that taking action reduces the anxiety naturally. Jealousy and envy, while painful, can reveal important information about your desires and values. When you feel jealous of someone, you're often seeing something you want for yourself. Instead of judging these feelings, you can use them as guidance about what you want to create in your own life. The practice of emotional Aikido involves several key principles. First, you must feel emotions fully rather than avoiding or suppressing them. Emotions are energy in motion, and they need to move through your system to be processed. When you block emotions, you create energetic stagnation that manifests as physical tension, mental fog, and emotional numbness. Second, you must separate the emotion from the story. Emotions are temporary, physiological responses. Stories are the meanings you attach to those responses. You can feel angry without believing that someone is trying to hurt you. You can feel sad without believing that you're a victim. You can feel afraid without believing that you're in danger. Third, you must look for the gift in every emotion. What is this feeling trying to teach you? What action is it trying to motivate? What need is it highlighting? What value is it protecting? When you approach emotions with curiosity rather than judgment, you discover that they're all trying to help you in some way. Chapter 10. The biological foundation of unshakable happiness. Your happiness isn't just about mindset and psychology, it's also about biology. Your brain is a biological organ, and like any organ, it needs the right conditions to function optimally. When you ignore the biological foundations of well-being, you're trying to build happiness on an unstable foundation. But when you optimize your biology, you create the ideal conditions for sustained happiness regardless of external circumstances. Most people approach happiness from the top down, trying to think their way into better feelings. But the bottom-up approach, optimizing your biology first, is often more effective and certainly more sustainable. When your brain chemistry is balanced, your hormones are optimized, and your nervous system is regulated, positive emotions arise naturally. You're working with your biology instead of against it. Let's start with sleep, the foundation of all well-being. Sleep isn't just rest. It's when your brain literally cleans itself. During deep sleep, your brain's glymphatic system flushes out toxic proteins and metabolic waste that accumulate during waking hours. This includes beta-amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative conditions. Sleep also consolidates memories, processes emotions, and restores neurotransmitter balance. When you're sleep deprived, your brain cannot perform these essential functions properly. This is why sleep deprivation has the same effect on your mood as clinical depression. Your emotional regulation breaks down. Your stress response becomes hyperactive, and your ability to experience positive emotions diminishes. Most people need 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. But quality is just as important as quantity. Deep sleep and REM sleep are particularly crucial for emotional well-being. Deep sleep is when your brain releases growth hormone and consolidates memories. REM sleep is when you process emotions and integrate experiences. To optimize your sleep, you need to understand your circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock that regulates sleep-wake cycles. This rhythm is primarily controlled by light exposure. Morning sunlight signals your brain to be alert and suppresses melatonin production. Evening darkness triggers melatonin release and prepares your body for sleep. Most people sabotage their circadian rhythm with artificial light exposure, especially blue light from screens in the evening. This suppresses melatonin production and makes it harder to fall asleep. Creating a consistent sleep schedule, getting morning sunlight exposure, and minimizing blue light in the evening can dramatically improve sleep quality and mood. Nutrition plays a crucial role in brain chemistry and emotional well-being. Your brain consumes about 20% of your daily calories and requires specific nutrients to produce neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that regulate mood. When you're deficient in key nutrients, your brain cannot produce adequate levels of serotonin, dopamine, and other mood-regulating chemicals. Omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA and EPA, found in fish oil, are essential for brain health and mood regulation. Studies show that people with depression often have low levels of omega-3s, and supplementation can be as effective as antidepressant medication for some people. Omega-3s reduce inflammation in the brain and support healthy neurotransmitter function. B vitamins, especially B6, B12, and folate, are crucial for neurotransmitter synthesis. Deficiencies in these vitamins are strongly associated with depression and anxiety. Magnesium is another critical nutrient that most people don't get enough of. Magnesium deficiency can cause anxiety, insomnia, and mood instability. The timing of your meals also affects your mood and energy levels. Eating large meals causes blood sugar spikes and crashes that destabilize your mood. Skipping meals can trigger stress responses and make you irritable and anxious. Eating balanced meals with protein, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates every 3 to 4 hours helps maintain stable blood sugar and mood. The gut-brain connection is particularly important for emotional well-being. Your gut produces about 90% of your body's serotonin, and the health of your gut microbiome directly affects your mental health. An imbalanced gut microbiome, often caused by poor diet, stress, or antibiotic use, can contribute to anxiety and depression. Fermented foods like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi contain beneficial bacteria that support gut health and mood. Prebiotic foods like garlic, onions, and asparagus feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut. Avoiding processed foods, excessive sugar, and artificial additives helps maintain a healthy gut microbiome. Exercise is perhaps the most powerful tool for optimizing brain chemistry and mood. When you exercise, your body releases endorphins, which are natural mood elevators. Exercise also increases levels of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which promotes the growth of new brain cells and protects existing ones. Different types of exercise affect your brain chemistry in different ways. Cardiovascular exercise increases endorphin production and reduces stress hormones. Strength training boosts testosterone and growth hormone, which improve confidence and energy. Yoga and Tai Chi activate the parasympathetic nervous system and promote relaxation. The key is finding forms of movement that you enjoy and can sustain long-term. Even 20-30 minutes of moderate exercise most days of the week can significantly improve mood and resilience. High-intensity interval training can be particularly effective for boosting mood and energy in shorter time periods. Breathing patterns directly affect your nervous system and emotional state. When you're stressed or anxious, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, which activates your sympathetic nervous system and increases stress hormones. When you're calm and relaxed, your breathing becomes deep and slow, which activates your parasympathetic nervous system and promotes healing and restoration. You can use conscious breathing to shift your nervous system state in real time. Techniques like box breathing, coherent breathing, and the physiological sigh can quickly reduce stress and improve mood. Regular breathwork practice can also improve your baseline stress resilience and emotional regulation. Cold exposure is an emerging area of research for mood and resilience. Cold showers, ice baths, or even just ending your hot shower with 30 seconds of cold water can increase norepinephrine levels, which improves mood and focus. Cold exposure also activates brown fat, which burns calories and improves metabolic health. Heat exposure through saunas or hot yoga can also improve mood and resilience. Heat shock proteins produced during heat exposure protect your brain cells and may reduce the risk of neurodegenerative diseases. Regular sauna use has been associated with reduced risk of depression and improved overall well-being. Sunlight exposure is crucial for vitamin D production and circadian rhythm regulation. Vitamin D deficiency is strongly associated with depression, especially seasonal affective disorder. Getting 15-30 minutes of direct sunlight exposure daily, particularly in the morning, can significantly improve mood and energy levels. Social connection isn't just psychological, it's biological. Positive social interactions release oxytocin, the bonding hormone that reduces stress and promotes feelings of safety and connection. Loneliness, on the other hand, triggers inflammatory responses that are associated with depression and various health problems. Understanding these biological foundations allows you to create a comprehensive approach to happiness that addresses both mind and body. When you optimize your sleep, nutrition, exercise, breathing, and social connections, you create the ideal biological conditions for sustained well-being and emotional resilience. Chapter 11. Building Bulletproof Mental Resilience. Life will test you. It will knock you down, disappoint you, break your heart, and challenge everything you believe about yourself and the world. This isn't a possibility, it's a guarantee. The question isn't whether you'll face adversity. The question is whether you'll have the mental resilience to bounce back stronger than before. Resilience isn't something you're born with or without. It's a skill you can develop, and once you master it, you become virtually unstoppable. Most people think resilience means being tough, emotionless, or unaffected by difficulties. But true resilience is the opposite. It's the ability to feel deeply, be affected by challenges, and still maintain your core strength and optimism. It's like a tree that bends in the storm but doesn't break, that loses its leaves in winter but grows them back in spring. The foundation of mental resilience is what psychologists call cognitive flexibility. The ability to adapt your thinking when circumstances change. Rigid thinking leads to rigid responses, which often make problems worse. Flexible thinking allows you to find creative solutions, see opportunities in obstacles, and maintain hope even in difficult situations. Cognitive flexibility starts with understanding that your first interpretation of any situation is not necessarily the most accurate or helpful one. Your brain is designed to make quick judgments based on limited information. But these snap judgments are often biased by fear, past experiences, or negative thinking patterns. Resilient people have learned to pause and consider alternative interpretations before reacting. When something bad happens, ask yourself, what else could this mean? What opportunities might this create? What lessons might this teach me? How might this redirect me towards something better? What strengths might this help me develop? These questions don't deny the reality of the difficulty, but they help you find empowering ways to respond to it. Another crucial component of resilience is what researchers call realistic optimism. This isn't blind positivity or denial of problems. It's the ability to see situations accurately while maintaining hope that things can improve. Realistic optimists acknowledge current challenges while believing in their ability to overcome them. This type of optimism is based on evidence and action, not just wishful thinking. You develop realistic optimism by building a track record of overcoming difficulties, learning from setbacks, and gradually expanding your capabilities. Every time you face a challenge and survive it, you prove to yourself that you can handle more than you initially thought. Resilient people also have what psychologists call an internal locus of control. They believe that their actions and choices have a significant impact on their outcomes. This doesn't mean they think they can control everything that happens to them, but they focus on what they can influence rather than feeling helpless about what they can't control. When faced with adversity, people with an internal locus of control ask questions like, what can I do about this? How can I influence this situation? What's within my power to change? What can I learn from this? How can I prepare better for next time? This mindset keeps them focused on solutions rather than problems. The practice of reframing is essential for building resilience. Reframing involves changing the meaning you assign to events without changing the facts. A job loss can be reframed as an opportunity to find better work. A relationship ending can be reframed as a chance to find someone more compatible. A health challenge can be reframed as motivation to take better care of yourself. Effective reframing requires you to look for authentic, positive aspects of difficult situations. This isn't about pretending bad things are good. It's about finding genuine benefits, lessons, or opportunities that exist alongside the challenges. There's almost always something valuable to be extracted from any experience if you look for it. Building mental resilience also requires developing what researchers call distress tolerance. The ability to experience difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them or making impulsive decisions to escape them. Many people lack distress tolerance, which is why they turn to addictions, distractions, or destructive behaviors when life gets hard. Distress tolerance is built through gradual exposure to manageable levels of discomfort. This might involve staying with difficult emotions instead of immediately trying to fix or escape them. It might involve taking on challenging projects that push your limits. It might involve having difficult conversations you've been avoiding. The goal isn't to seek out suffering, but to build confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. When you know you can survive difficult emotions and challenging situations, you become much more willing to take risks, pursue meaningful goals, and live authentically. Social support is another crucial factor in resilience. Humans are not designed to handle major challenges alone. Having people you can turn to for emotional support, practical help, or different perspectives significantly increases your ability to bounce back from setbacks. But building social support requires vulnerability and reciprocity. You have to be willing to share your struggles with others and also be there for them when they're struggling. Many people isolate themselves during difficult times, which makes recovery much harder and slower. Post-traumatic growth is the highest level of resilience. This occurs when people don't just recover from trauma or adversity, but actually become stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled than they were before the difficult experience. Research shows that many people who experience significant challenges report positive changes in 5 areas: appreciation for life, relating to others, personal strength, new possibilities, and spiritual development. Post-traumatic growth doesn't happen automatically. It requires actively working to extract meaning and value from difficult experiences. It requires viewing challenges as opportunities for development rather than just obstacles to overcome. It requires being open to the possibility that adversity might redirect your life in positive ways you couldn't have imagined. The practice of resilience also involves building what psychologists call psychological capital: hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. Hope is the belief that you can find pathways to your goals and maintain motivation to pursue them. Efficacy is confidence in your ability to succeed in specific tasks. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks. Optimism is the tendency to expect positive outcomes. These 4 elements reinforce each other. When you're hopeful about the future, you're more likely to put in effort, which builds efficacy. When you have confidence in your abilities, you're more resilient in the face of setbacks. When you're optimistic about outcomes, you maintain hope even during difficult times. Mental resilience ultimately comes down to your relationship with uncertainty and discomfort. Life is inherently uncertain, and trying to eliminate all uncertainty and discomfort is both impossible and counterproductive. Resilient people have learned to be comfortable with uncertainty and to see discomfort as temporary and often necessary for growth. Chapter 12. Creating habits that generate automatic happiness. Your life is essentially the sum of your habits. What you do consistently, day after day, determines your health, your relationships, your success, and most importantly, your happiness. Most people leave their habits to chance, unconsciously developing patterns that create stress, negativity, and dissatisfaction. But when you consciously design habits that generate positive emotions and well-being, you create a life where happiness becomes automatic rather than accidental. The power of habits lies in their automaticity. Habits bypass conscious decision-making and run on autopilot, which means they don't require willpower or motivation to maintain. This is crucial because willpower is a limited resource that gets depleted throughout the day. If you rely on willpower to make yourself happy, you'll only be happy when you're feeling strong and motivated. But when happiness is built into your daily habits, it happens regardless of how you feel in the moment. Understanding the science of habit formation is essential for creating lasting change. Every habit follows the same neurological pattern: cue, routine, reward. The cue triggers the behavior. The routine is the behavior itself, and the reward is the benefit you get from doing it. Your brain forms habits by creating neural pathways that make this sequence automatic. The key to building happiness habits is designing them so that the reward is immediate and intrinsic. Many people try to build habits based on long-term rewards, like exercising to lose weight or reading to become smarter. But your brain responds more strongly to immediate rewards. If the habit doesn't feel good in the moment, it won't stick. Let's start with morning happiness habits, which set the tone for your entire day. The first hour after you wake up is when your brain is most programmable. Your brain waves are still in a relaxed state, and you haven't yet been bombarded with external demands and stresses. This makes it the perfect time to install positive programming. A simple but powerful morning happiness habit is the 3-minute gratitude practice. Before you check your phone or think about your to-do list, spend 3 minutes thinking about specific things you're grateful for. Feel the emotion of appreciation in your body. Don't just think the thoughts. This practice primes your brain to notice positive aspects of your day and starts a positive emotional cascade. Another effective morning habit is setting a daily intention. This isn't a specific goal or task, but rather a way of being you want to embody throughout the day. You might intend to be patient, curious, kind, or present. Having a clear intention helps you respond consciously to situations rather than just reacting automatically. Movement in the morning, even just 5 minutes, can dramatically improve your mood and energy for the entire day. This doesn't have to be intense exercise. It could be stretching, dancing to a favorite song, doing jumping jacks, or walking around the block. The key is to move your body with energy and intention, signaling to your brain that you're alive and ready for the day. Throughout the day, micro habits can create continuous boosts to your well-being. These are tiny behaviors that take less than 2 minutes, but have cumulative, positive effects. Taking 3 deep breaths before meals helps you eat more mindfully and digest better. Smiling at yourself in the mirror boosts confidence and mood. Complimenting someone activates your brain's reward centers. Standing up and stretching every hour prevents energy crashes and maintains alertness. The habit of conscious appreciation can transform ordinary moments into sources of joy. This involves deliberately noticing and appreciating simple pleasures throughout your day. The taste of your coffee, the feeling of warm water in the shower, the beauty of sunlight through a window, the sound of laughter, the comfort of your bed. When you train yourself to notice these moments, you realize that opportunities for happiness are everywhere. Social connection habits are particularly powerful for sustained well-being. This might involve texting one person daily to check in, having phone-free meals with family, scheduling regular coffee dates with friends, or joining communities based on shared interests. Social habits create positive feedback loops because other people respond positively to your consistency, which motivates you to maintain the habits. Evening habits are crucial for processing the day and preparing for restorative sleep. A simple evening reflection practice involves asking yourself 3 questions. What went well today? What did I learn? What am I grateful for? This helps you end the day on a positive note and reinforces lessons and positive experiences. Digital habits significantly impact your mental state and deserve special attention. The habit of checking your phone first thing in the morning floods your brain with other people's agendas and problems before you've even gotten out of bed. Creating a morning phone-free zone allows you to start the day from your own center, rather than external chaos. Similarly, consuming news and social media without limits creates a constant stream of negative emotions and comparison. Setting specific times for digital consumption and choosing positive, educational content over sensational or negative content protects your mental environment. The Keystone Habit concept, developed by researcher Charles Duhigg, suggests that some habits naturally trigger positive changes in other areas of your life. Exercise is a classic keystone habit because people who exercise regularly often start eating better, sleeping better, and managing stress more effectively. Meditation is another keystone habit that tends to improve emotional regulation, focus, and self-awareness. Building happiness habits requires starting small and focusing on consistency rather than intensity. Most people fail at habit change because they try to do too much too soon. They decide to exercise for an hour every day when they haven't exercised in months. They try to meditate for 30 minutes when they've never meditated before. This sets them up for failure and disappointment. Instead, start with the smallest version of the habit that you can do consistently. If you want to exercise, start with 5 push-ups or a 1-minute walk. If you want to meditate, start with 1 minute of deep breathing. If you want to read more, start with 1 page per day. Once the tiny habit is established, you can gradually increase it. The 2-minute rule states that any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to complete. This makes it easy to start and removes the barriers that prevent consistency. You can do almost anything for 2 minutes, regardless of how busy or tired you are. Habit stacking is another powerful technique for building new habits. This involves attaching a new habit to an existing habit that's already well established. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will write down 3 things I'm grateful for. Or, after I brush my teeth, I will do 10 jumping jacks. The existing habit serves as a natural cue for the new habit. Environmental design is crucial for habit success. Your environment should make good habits easy and bad habits difficult. If you want to drink more water, put water bottles where you'll see them. If you want to read more, put books where you spend time and remove distracting devices. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Tracking your habits creates accountability and motivation. This doesn't have to be complicated. A simple check mark on a calendar can be effective. Seeing a chain of successful days creates momentum and makes you reluctant to break the streak. The most important aspect of happiness habits is that they should feel good in the moment, not just produce long-term benefits. If a habit feels like a chore or punishment, you won't stick with it. Find ways to make your habits immediately rewarding. Listen to favorite music while exercising. Read books you genuinely enjoy. Practice gratitude for things that genuinely move you. Chapter 13. Protecting your energy from energy vampires. Not all people are good for your well-being. Some people, no matter how much you care about them, consistently drain your energy, dampen your mood, and undermine your happiness. These energy vampires can be family members, friends, colleagues, or romantic partners. Learning to identify them and protect yourself from their negative influence is essential for maintaining your emotional well-being and creating a life filled with joy and positivity. Energy vampires aren't necessarily bad people, though some certainly can be toxic or manipulative. Often, they're people who are struggling with their own issues but haven't learned healthy ways to cope. They unconsciously seek to feel better by drawing energy from others, complaining constantly, creating drama, or demanding excessive attention and support. The problem is that many people, especially those with empathetic and caring personalities, feel obligated to absorb others' negative energy and try to fix their problems. They think they're being helpful or loving, but they're actually enabling destructive patterns while sacrificing their own well-being. You cannot save people from themselves, and trying to do so often hurts both you and them. Recognizing energy vampires requires paying attention to how you feel before, during, and after interacting with different people. Energy givers leave you feeling uplifted, inspired, and energized. Energy vampires leave you feeling drained, heavy, and depleted. If you consistently feel worse after spending time with someone, regardless of your affection for them, they're likely an energy vampire. Common types of energy vampires include the chronic complainer, who sees problems in everything but never takes action to improve their situation. They want to vent endlessly, but aren't interested in solutions. They use you as an emotional dumping ground, expecting you to absorb their negativity without offering anything positive in return. The drama creator thrives on conflict and chaos. They're always involved in some crisis, usually of their own making. and they want you to get involved in their drama. They may gossip constantly, stir up trouble between others, or create unnecessary conflict in situations that could be peaceful. The victim has a story about how everyone and everything is against them. They take no responsibility for their circumstances and blame external factors for all their problems. They're addicted to sympathy and will reject any suggestion that they have power to change their situation. The narcissist makes every conversation about themselves. They're not interested in your thoughts, feelings, or experiences, except as they relate to them. They may be charming and entertaining, but the relationship is entirely one-sided. The guilt tripper uses emotional manipulation to get what they want. They make you feel responsible for their emotions and use phrases like, "If you really cared about me, you would," or "You're the only one who understands me." They exploit your kindness and empathy for their own benefit. Protecting yourself from energy vampires requires setting and enforcing clear boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're guidelines for how you allow yourself to be treated. You have the right to protect your emotional well-being. And setting boundaries is not selfish. It's necessary. The first step in boundary setting is recognizing that you cannot change other people. You can only change how you respond to them. Stop trying to fix, rescue, or change energy vampires. Stop taking responsibility for their emotions or problems. Stop allowing their mood to determine your mood. Practical boundary setting techniques include limiting the time you spend with energy vampires. You might decide to see certain family members only at large gatherings, rather than one-on-one. You might limit phone conversations to specific time periods. You might avoid certain topics of conversation that always lead to negativity. The gray rock method is useful for dealing with particularly toxic individuals. This involves becoming as boring and unresponsive as possible when they try to engage you in drama or manipulation. Give short, non-committal responses and avoid sharing personal information that they could use against you. Physical boundaries are sometimes necessary. This might mean leaving when someone becomes abusive or manipulative. It might mean hanging up the phone when a conversation becomes toxic. It might mean blocking someone on social media who consistently posts negative content. Emotional boundaries involve not absorbing others' emotions as your own. Just because someone is upset doesn't mean you have to be upset. Just because someone is anxious doesn't mean you have to feel anxious. You can be compassionate without taking on their emotional burden. The key to maintaining boundaries is consistency. Energy vampires will test your boundaries repeatedly, especially when you first start setting them. They may escalate their behavior, guilt trip you, or accuse you of being mean or selfish. This is normal and temporary. If you remain consistent, they'll eventually accept your boundaries or remove themselves from your life. Sometimes, protecting your energy requires ending relationships entirely. This is never easy, especially with family members or long-term friends. But sometimes it's necessary for your mental health and well-being. You have the right to remove people from your life who consistently harm your emotional state, regardless of your history with them. When ending toxic relationships, be clear and direct, rather than slowly fading away or hoping they'll get the hint. Let them know that you need space or that the relationship isn't working for you. You don't owe them a detailed explanation or justification. You don't need their permission or agreement to end the relationship. Guilt is the biggest obstacle to protecting yourself from energy vampires. You might feel guilty for setting boundaries with family members, ending friendships, or refusing to help people who seem to need you. But remember that you cannot help others from an empty cup. Taking care of your own well-being first enables you to be more helpful to others in the long run. Replace guilt with the understanding that healthy relationships are mutually beneficial. Good relationships involve give and take, support during difficult times, and genuine care for each other's well-being. If a relationship is consistently one-sided, with you always giving and the other person always taking. It's not a healthy relationship regardless of what you call it. Surrounding yourself with energy givers is just as important as avoiding energy vampires. Actively seek out people who inspire you, support your growth, share your values, and contribute positively to your life. These relationships will naturally crowd out the toxic ones and create a positive social environment that supports your happiness. Building a strong support network of positive people creates resilience against energy vampires. When you have multiple sources of emotional support and positive interaction, you're less likely to tolerate toxic behavior from others. You'll also be less tempted to stay in unhealthy relationships out of loneliness or fear. Chapter 14. The Art of Present Moment Awareness. The present moment is the only moment where happiness can actually be experienced. You cannot be happy in the past because the past no longer exists. You cannot be happy in the future because the future hasn't happened yet. Happiness only exists now, in this moment. Yet most people spend their entire lives somewhere else mentally, missing the only time when joy is actually available. The average person spends 47% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're currently doing. And these mind-wandering episodes consistently predict lower levels of happiness. When your mind is wandering, you're not experiencing life. You're experiencing your thoughts about life. And thoughts about life are almost always less satisfying than the actual experience of living. Present moment awareness, also called mindfulness, isn't about emptying your mind or stopping thoughts. It's about becoming aware of what's happening right now, both internally and externally, without getting lost in mental narratives about it. It's the difference between experiencing rain and thinking about rain, between feeling love and analyzing love, between living your life and thinking about your life. Most people resist the present moment because they've been conditioned to believe that happiness comes from achieving future goals or resolving past issues. They think the present moment isn't good enough, that they need to get somewhere else or become someone else to be happy. But this is the fundamental delusion that keeps people trapped in perpetual dissatisfaction. The present moment is always perfect for experiencing happiness, not because external circumstances are always ideal, but because happiness is an internal state that doesn't depend on external conditions. You can feel peaceful while experiencing chaos. You can feel grateful while facing challenges. You can feel love while dealing with difficult people. The key is learning to access these states consciously rather than waiting for circumstances to create them automatically. Developing present moment awareness begins with understanding the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is the unavoidable physical and emotional discomfort that comes with being human. Suffering is the mental elaboration we add to pain through our thoughts and resistance. When you stub your toe, the physical pain is unavoidable, but the mental suffering, the story about how clumsy you are or how this ruins your day, is optional. Most of what we call suffering is actually resistance to what's already happening. When you fight reality, when you wish things were different, when you replay past events or worry about future possibilities, you create mental suffering that has nothing to do with present moment circumstances. The practice of acceptance doesn't mean you like everything that happens. It means you stop wasting energy fighting what's already happened or might happen. Breath awareness is the most accessible doorway into present moment consciousness. Your breath is always happening now, and focusing on it naturally brings your attention into the present. When you notice your mind wandering into thoughts about the past or future, simply return your attention to your breathing. This isn't failure. It's the practice. The mind wanders, you notice. You return to the breath. This cycle strengthens your ability to stay present. Body awareness is another powerful anchor for present moment consciousness. Your body is always in the present, never in the past or future. Scanning your body from head to toe, noticing sensations without trying to change them, connects you immediately with what's happening now. Physical sensations, whether pleasant or unpleasant, are direct experiences rather than mental interpretations. Sensory awareness involves fully engaging with what you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch right now. Most people move through life on autopilot, missing the rich sensory experience available in every moment. When you consciously notice the colors around you, the sounds in your environment, the textures you're touching, you become present automatically. The practice of noting is particularly helpful for beginners. This involves silently labeling your experience without judgment. When you notice your mind thinking, you silently say thinking. When you notice emotions arising, you say feeling. When you notice physical sensations, you say sensing. This creates space between you and your experience, helping you observe rather than be overwhelmed by what's happening. Emotional presence is perhaps the most challenging but rewarding aspect of mindfulness. Most people try to escape difficult emotions through distraction, substances, or mental strategies. But emotions are temporary visitors that arise and pass away naturally when you don't resist them. When you can stay present with difficult emotions without trying to fix or escape them, they lose their power to control you. This doesn't mean wallowing in negative emotions or believing every feeling you have. It means acknowledging emotions as temporary weather patterns in the sky of your consciousness. You don't have to like the weather, but you don't waste energy trying to control it either. Mindful listening transforms your relationships and deepens your capacity for connection. Instead of listening for what you want to hear or preparing your response while others speak, you listen with your full presence. You hear not just words, but emotions, intentions, and the person behind the words. This quality of attention is so rare that people feel genuinely seen and appreciated when you offer it. Mindful eating can transform one of your most routine activities into a source of pleasure and awareness. Instead of eating while distracted by screens or thoughts, you pay attention to flavors, textures, and the experience of nourishment. You notice when you're hungry and when you're satisfied. You appreciate the journey food has taken to reach you. Walking meditation brings mindfulness into movement. Whether you're walking to the store or taking a deliberate mindful walk, you can focus on the sensation of your feet touching the ground, the movement of your legs, the rhythm of your steps. Walking meditation proves that you don't need to be sitting still to be present. The ultimate goal of present moment awareness isn't to be mindful all the time, which would be impossible and unnecessary. The goal is to have the ability to return to the present when you choose to, especially during difficult or important moments. When you're stressed, instead of getting lost in worried thoughts, you can return to your breath. When you're with loved ones, instead of being distracted by mental chatter, you can be fully present with them. Present moment awareness also reveals the illusory nature of many problems. When you're fully present, you often discover that the problem you were worried about exists mainly in your thoughts about the situation, not in the situation itself. Right now, in this moment, you're probably okay. You're breathing, you're safe, you have what you need. Most suffering exists in mental projections about what might happen or mental replaying of what did happen. This doesn't minimize real challenges or suggest that present moment awareness solves all problems. But it does reveal that many of our problems are self-created through excessive thinking and worrying. When you can stay present, you often find that you have more resources and clarity to handle actual challenges when they arise. Chapter 15. Living from your unshakable core. After everything we've covered, there's one final truth that will determine whether you actually transform your life or just collect more information. Happiness isn't something you achieve, it's something you are. deep within you, beneath all the stories, fears, and conditioning, exists an unshakable core of peace, joy, and wholeness that no external circumstance can touch. Learning to live from this core, rather than from your surface thoughts and emotions, is the ultimate key to sustained happiness, regardless of what life brings. Most people spend their entire lives trying to become happy through external means, never realizing that they're already whole and complete. They think happiness is a destination they'll reach when they get enough money, love, success, or security. But happiness is actually your natural state, the foundation of your being that gets covered up by layers of mental conditioning and emotional reactivity. This isn't spiritual fantasy or motivational speaking. It's the deepest truth about human nature. When you strip away all the mental noise, all the stories about yourself and your life, all the fears and desires and judgments, what remains is pure awareness. And pure awareness is inherently peaceful and content. You've experienced this state during moments of deep meditation, intense focus, profound love, or natural beauty, when the mental chatter stops and you feel connected to something larger than your small self. The journey to living from your unshakable core begins with recognizing that you are not your thoughts, emotions, or circumstances. You are the awareness that observes thoughts, emotions, and circumstances. This awareness, your true self, is never actually threatened or damaged by anything that happens in your life. It's like the sky that remains unchanged, whether the weather is stormy or clear. When you identify with your thoughts and emotions, you live at the mercy of whatever mental weather happens to be passing through. When you identify with your circumstances, you feel stable only when life is going well. But when you identify with your essential nature, with pure awareness itself, you have an unshakable foundation that no external event can disturb. This shift in identity from the temporary to the eternal, from the changing to the unchanging, is what spiritual traditions have called enlightenment or awakening. But you don't need to become a monk or spend years in meditation to access this truth. You can recognize it right now, in this moment, by asking yourself, who is aware of your thoughts right now? Who notices your emotions? Who observes your circumstances? That which is aware is your true self, and it has never been disturbed by anything you've experienced. It was present during your happiest moments and your most difficult challenges. It's present now as you listen to these words, and it will be present throughout whatever else you experience in life. This awareness is your refuge, your sanctuary, your unshakable core. Living from this core doesn't mean becoming detached or indifferent to life. It means engaging fully with life from a place of inner stability rather than inner chaos. It means caring deeply about things that matter while not being destroyed when they don't go as planned. It means feeling emotions fully while not being controlled by them. It means participating completely in the human experience while maintaining connection to something beyond it. This perspective transforms how you approach challenges. Instead of seeing difficulties as problems that threaten your happiness, you see them as opportunities to discover how unshakable you really are. Instead of trying to control external circumstances to feel secure, you find security in your ability to remain centered regardless of what happens. When you live from your unshakable core, you stop waiting for life to be perfect before you allow yourself to be happy. You realize that perfection isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of peace within any circumstance. You understand that security isn't having everything under control. It's knowing that you can handle whatever comes. This doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen once and then stay forever. It's a gradual process of remembering who you really are beneath all the layers of conditioning. Every time you choose peace over reactivity, presence over mental chatter, love over fear, you're strengthening your connection to your unshakable core. The practices we've covered throughout this audiobook, gratitude, mindfulness, emotional regulation, relationship skills, physical optimization, all serve to clear away the obstacles that prevent you from experiencing your natural state of happiness. They're not ways to become happy, they're ways to remove what's blocking the happiness that's already there. Some days you'll feel deeply connected to this truth, and other days you'll feel completely lost in surface thoughts and emotions. This is normal and part of the process. The goal isn't to be enlightened all the time. It's to have moments of recognition that gradually become more frequent and stable. What changes everything is when you realize that your happiness doesn't depend on anything external ever again, not because external things don't matter, but because you found the source of happiness within yourself. From this place, you can engage with the world from overflow rather than emptiness, from love rather than need, from joy rather than desperation. When you live from your unshakable core, you become a source of stability and peace for others. Your presence alone helps people feel calmer and more centered. You become part of the solution to the world's suffering rather than part of the problem. You radiate the very qualities that everyone is seeking. This is your invitation to stop looking for happiness in all the wrong places and start recognizing the happiness that has always been present in the right place, within your own being. Everything you've ever wanted, every state you've ever sought, every experience you've ever craved is available right now in the depths of your own awareness. The search is over. You are already what you've been looking for. You are already whole, already complete, already worthy of unlimited happiness and love. The only thing left to do is to live from this truth, to let it guide your choices, inform your responses, and determine your experience of life. Your unshakable core has been waiting for you to come home to it your entire life. It's been waiting patiently, lovingly, consistently, never judging you for how long it's taken you to recognize it. It's here now, in this moment, available to you completely. All you have to do is remember who you really are and let yourself live from that remembering. This is not the end of your journey toward happiness. This is the beginning of living the happiness that you are. This is your moment of recognition, your moment of awakening, your moment of coming home to yourself. Welcome to your unshakable life.